invited Robert here because Robert does definitely know where people should be investing their money. And during these turbulent times, people who don't know about investment know that there is something crazy going on in our stock markets, and you would have heard the news. So Robert's going to clarify some information and help us understand what really should be happening at this time, where we should be putting our money in. Naturally, when it comes to investments, there is no kind of broad, everybody should do this, but it's really a bespoke thing. So he's going to give you his general insights on how that works. Hello, Robert. How are you today?
I'm great, OC. Good to be on tonight. And obviously, we just had two great speakers, so I hope I can follow those acts.
Oh, yeah, 100%, sir, 100%. So looking forward to this. So go ahead and share your information with us. And again, for anybody watching, if you do have any questions regarding investment, and now here's the thing, let me just say this now. For people who are watching now, I get it, okay? I get it. I've been there and I get it. I know what it's like when it comes to public forums like this and people asking questions. Now, you can ask questions that only the panelists see, okay? Nobody else is gonna see these questions, and there are no silly questions. Nobody's gonna laugh at you. If anybody laughs, it will be probably laughing at me saying something wrong, because that usually happens. But there are no silly questions. Feel free to ask questions of Robert, of Crystal, because we really do need to increase our financial literacy. And we need to get to a place where we actually know exactly what we do. Okay, Robert, over to you, sir. Thank you.
Nowhere to Invest is the brand and the website. This presentation is focused on how to survive the COVID-19 emergency with your investments intact. That's what we're going for here. So first of all, the legal stuff. So the opinions expressed in this presentation are for information purposes only and should not be construed as a recommendation for any security, portfolio securities, or any type of transaction. It's purely information here. So who am I? International banker, entrepreneur, been involved in investment for more than 22 years. Focus has generally been on bonds and real estate, but I've got involved with many other types of investments over the years. As Ossie mentioned, I'm a CFA charter holder and also an investor, as many of you are, even if you don't realize it at the moment. But my focus now is helping people with their own investments, because I appreciate the fact that this isn't something you learn in school. There's not a lot of real information out there. In fact, probably 99% of what you hear or think you know is misinformation. So I hope I can take a few minutes now to help give you some clear information and guidance on where you should be looking to make your investments, given the current climate. So this is the general approach, goals-based investing. So there's a number of goals that you may be thinking about, or that you should be thinking about. In fact, every single investment should be feeding into some kind of goal or objective for your life. So it shouldn't be that you hear of something that sounds good, or somebody tells you about a real estate investment hotel in the Maldives or something like that, and you just decide to jump on board because you think it's going to make you a millionaire. That's not the approach that professional investors take, and it's not the approach that you want to take either. So I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. The aspirational portfolio, this is part of what Paul was talking about earlier, and what some of the other speakers will talk about later on. But this is where you would look if you were looking to become financially independent and wealthy. This is where this fits in. The second layer down, retirement portfolio. That's your second priority, and that's making sure you can take care of yourself when you're no longer working. But today, I think that the priority is the emergency fund. Now, Crystal's already touched on this. I'm going to go into it in a bit more detail, because the emergency fund, I think COVID-19 and the economic shutdown that most countries in the West are experiencing, I think that qualifies as an emergency. So what goes in here? Normally, I would say 6 months of living expenses. You might have those in cash. It might represent even your home, certificates of deposits, bonds, gold, various types of things. Today, I'm saying that you may want to make this 9 to 12 months. Part of the reason I say that, I was unemployed in 2016, and that wasn't as bad a situation as it is today, and I was unemployed for 9 months, and I used the entirety of my emergency fund. Today, things are a lot worse. We've never seen anything like this before, I don't think, in history, where so many governments around the world have shut down their economies all at the same time. Now, whether it's the right thing to do or not, given the situation, that's another debate for another day. It is a situation we're facing, though, and it's going to create significant problems. So where I sit in the industry, I get to see a lot of what's going on. And so I find myself in the position of perhaps being in the crow's nest of a ship, looking out over the horizon, and I can see a tidal wave coming out in our direction. Now, it's going to hit different people at different times. So far, it's mainly hit people in the service industry. So obviously retail, gyms, restaurants, these sorts of things. Many of these people have been made unemployed already, and more will come. So for that reason, well, the other side of it is that if you lose your job today, there isn't another job to go to because everything is shut down, which is a really strange and actually quite frightening situation. So for that reason, I think right now you need to be focusing on having as big an emergency fund as possible. The other thing I would say is not to keep all of it in savings at the bank. Why do I say that? Well, under normal circumstances, you're not expecting the bank to go under. But what I see going, and to follow the logic, I would say that before long, banks are going to be in a very tricky situation, and perhaps a worse situation than they were in 2008. During the great financial crisis, as we called it. Why do I say that? Well, my focus is real estate at the moment. So what do I see happening? I see tenants, restaurants, cafes, clothing stores, so on and so forth, all shut down. That means they don't have any revenues. That means they can't pay their rent. So that means landlords aren't getting paid. Now the landlords, they finance these properties with mortgages from the bank. They can't pay their mortgage, which means ultimately the banks will start to make losses. And what also makes that more difficult is that people who currently have emergency funds are going to be, if they're unemployed, they're going to be spending their savings now for their living expenses. So what you're going to have is losses mounting at the bank while the deposits go down. And at some point, this is going to get to a situation where banks can't actually pay out all the deposits at once, and then you have a bank failure. So what I would say is look for other ways to diversify your funds. I personally keep a lot of my emergency fund in gold bullion, either in a vault or elsewhere, because that insulates you from banks. Other things to consider: insurance, income protection insurance, that can pay out over a period of time. I had that in the past. Back in 2016, when I was unemployed, I had 6 months of payments from my insurance. These sorts of things can help, and they're not tied to what happens in the banking industry. The other thing to consider is, I think now, adding into your emergency fund 1 to 2 months supply of food and water in your home. Again, why do I say that? Well, if we look at the situation in Italy, it's already looking very difficult for people who have been shut down for 4 to 5 weeks. So what happens here? Well, we already saw what happened before the shutdown. People rushed out to supermarkets and raided the shelves. Now the shelves are restocking, but if we run through a similar logic as I did with the banks. People lose their job, they run out of money, then they run out of food. What do they do then? Well, right now, people in Italy are raiding supermarkets to take the food. So if people steal all the food from the supermarkets, you may have money, but you may not be able to buy sufficient food. So this is why they say have 1 to 2 months. You can do this gradually. Every time you go shopping, pick up a few extra items. Don't go crazy like people did, but just a few extra items. Take stock of what you've got. Make an inventory. Now, normally I wouldn't be getting into this side of things, which is sort of like prepping for natural disasters. And this is a common problem in the United States when they had hurricanes. They had the same thing happen in New York, New Orleans, places like this, where people didn't have sufficient food at home. But we're in uncharted territory here. As things go on, we're two weeks into a lockdown. Italy's 5 weeks into theirs. They're talking about 3 months. So, you know, more and more people become unemployed. Food supplies at home start to dwindle. People run out of money. You know, it doesn't take a genius to see serious problems down the road. So, not trying to scare everybody, but, you know, if I move to my next slide, fear is paralyzing. So don't allow yourself to be terrorized by the bad news out there. There is a lot of it. Knowledge is power. And there's certain forms of knowledge here that are going to protect you. One is being secure in the knowledge that you have built a sufficient emergency fund at your home so that you can get through the next 1, 2, 3, maybe 6 months. We don't know how long it's going to be, but just extend that out for as long as you can. And once again, the other stuff, normally when I say knowledge of power, I'm referring to the knowledge of where to invest. And typically I'm telling people to invest for the long haul, you know, looking out over decades, you know, looking out towards retirement. But today, your most important priority is surviving the next few months. So make sure you've got what you need in place to take care of yourself, your family, your children, or your loved ones. So you can reach me at my website, knowwheretoinvest.com. I have a free ebook there. It's available to everybody. That will get more in depth with the things I've talked about today. You can email me directly. My mobile number is there. Give me a call. I do a number of different types of consultations. Right now, I have free consultations, and should you desire any of the paid consultations, I'm offering $100 off, given the current situation. So get in touch, even if it's just for a quick chat. I'm available to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Robert. That is excellent information. And again, to those people who have never heard of investment, or well, people have heard of investment but don't know exactly what to do, I would say take advantage of the session. We've got a question and answer session coming up, and I see the question in there from Simon. And I'm going to bring that up later during the Q&A panel so that Robert can address that for us. But really, now is the time to ask these questions, because, you know, like Robert has just said, fear is paralyzing. There's a lot of negative information that we can consume, and it will stop us from moving forward. But the purpose of this event is to give you the right information. Sometimes the right information might not be even what we want to hear, but it's the right information, and we need to be able to act on that. And I think the best way to act on it is to ask the right questions so that we've got the right ideas and we can move forward. But really take advantage of our panelists tonight, especially during the Q&A session. Okay, and we have a thank you in there for a few people in the comments. Robert, thank you so much. Okay, so let's move on to our next speaker. This is someone who he can relate to a lot of people at a lot of different levels. He's a very down-to-earth guy. He's got great experience and great knowledge as well. He is a business strategist. He is someone who, I've told this story before, we now see Edu Education, and right now actually Edu Education is in the process of having a facelift. We've got a new logo coming out, a new website coming out, so we're really trying to move forward. But I remember sitting down and talking with our next speaker in a Costa Coffee in East London, and we sat down and we had business ideas, and I said, what do you think about this? He says, okay, how is that going to work? And I said, he said, no, it's no good. It can't work. We're very real. But what it is he helped tease out a very, well, I basically said to him, hey, look, I want to do a seminar. I want to help people learn how to become entrepreneurs. And he evaluated it for me. And it's like, yeah, this will work. Go for it. And here we are. So I know that he's helped me, and I know that he can help you. So I'm going to hand over to you, Mr. Paul Essien. Thank you so much for